Dead men tell no tales, but their ships speak volumes. Welcome to the Cursed Compass, where we explore the darkest maritime mysteries. In 1694, the Indian Ocean was a massive, poorly mapped void. 325 people sailed into it and simply vanished. Their ship was the Ridderschap van Holland. Built in Amsterdam, it was a 164-foot technological marvel weighing over 1,100 tons. Armed with 36 cannons and carrying a fortune in trade goods, it was the pinnacle of the Dutch East India Company's fleet. But the voyage was compromised from the start. By the time the ship reached Cape, 9 crew members were dead, and dozens more were too sick to work. Most concerning of all, the main mast had sprung, leaving the vessel structurally weakened. The skipper ordered a new mast, but he was overruled. A high-ranking VOC merchant named Jacob Koper was on board, and, impatient to reach his new post in Batavia, he forced the ship to maintain its schedule despite the damage. On February 5th, the ship sailed out with a fractured mast and a VIP's ego at the helm. It was the last time the Ridderschap van Holland was seen by the Dutch Republic. In the distant port of Batavia, the anxious months slowly turned into years. The empty docks waited for a ship that never arrived. The company eventually launched a series of desperate search missions, sending yachts to scour the unmapped islands of the Indian Ocean for any sign of the missing 325. These missions failed to find the ship, but they did find something else: 2 conflicting pieces of evidence, located on opposite sides of the ocean, each suggesting a very different end. If the weakened mast finally snapped at sea, the captain would have been forced to steer for the nearest timber. That would have put the crippled ship on a collision course with Madagascar. In 1694, this coastline was a lawless pirate stronghold. It was ruled by Abraham Samuels, a leader notorious for sparing no one who washed up on his shores. Rumors of a pirate hijacking eventually reached the Cape, leading the government to dispatch the yacht Tambor in 1699 to investigate the coast of Madagascar. Captain Coyne's logbook records the grim discovery. Locals reported heavy ship masts washed onto the sand alongside 14 freshly dug graves. With no living survivors, the evidence suggested that while some crew made it to the beach, none made it off. If those 14 graves belonged to the Ridderschap, it leaves the fate of the other 311 people on board an open, haunting question. 3,000 miles east, in 1727, the crew of the Dutch ship Zeewijk shipwrecked on a desolate sandbar in the Houtman-Abrolhos Islands. Trapped on a barren rock with no fresh water, the survivors began to explore the island, desperate for any resources that might help them survive. Instead, they found they weren't alone. Half buried in the sand was an older, abandoned survivor camp, perfectly preserved by the dry, salt air. They found 17th-century Dutch bottles and tools, proof that an earlier crew had lived on this island for a considerable time, waiting for a rescue that never came. We can no longer test these artifacts to see if they belonged to the Ridderschap. In the early 20th century, the island was stripped by guano miners, who destroyed the site and everything in it. That destruction erased the only archaeological evidence we had, making it impossible to confirm if this was the final resting place of the missing passengers. It remains a quiet horror of the Golden Age, surviving a shipwreck only to be forgotten at the edge of the known world. The disappearance of the Ridderschap forced the VOC to take the Southland seriously. They sent explorer Willem de Vlaming on a massive mission to search the coast of present-day Australia for any sign of his countrymen. Vlaming didn't find the ship, but his search produced the first accurate charts of the Western Australian coastline. The search filled in the blanks on the map, turning a dangerous rumor into the defined western edge of a continent. The lines Vlaming drew stayed on the map. The 325 people he was looking for did not. The Ridderschap van Holland remains a monument to human arrogance. One man's impatience doomed the ship, leaving only a new set of maps and a vast, indifferent ocean that keeps its secrets.